Okay, welcome everyone to another edition of Leon's Library, a live talk show dedicated to any of the issues of our day. We focus mostly on areas of parental rights, child abuse, dysfunctional court system, so many of the problems that we see today that are pretty much being ignored by the media. And the court system and their oversight entities. My name is Leon Koziel. I am the host of Leon's Library. It's a daily talk show from Monday through Friday. It is sponsored by the Citizen Commission Against Corruption, which is a nonprofit organization that is catered to exposing corruption and correcting it in the court systems. So in any event, in the news today, we find Chad Reed, a man who went to pick up his child at apparently a time somewhere around 3 o'clock, 3:15, I guess it was. And he got into an argument with the ex-wife. And over time, that argument didn't correct the problem of the son, the boy, not being present at the stated time. And this was apparently agreed upon. There was a court order to that effect. And an argument ensued between the mom and the dad. The mom was living with a boyfriend who owned the property. He came out in the midst of that argument and demanded that the father leave. That then escalated into an argument between the boyfriend, the ex-wife's boyfriend, and the father. The father then, or the boyfriend then simply went into the house, picked up a rifle and came out with it and brandished it. The two were nose to nose, chin to chin, arguing. And the father at one point, who was the bigger of the two, pushed the man with the gun, the boyfriend with the gun, away from him. And at that point, the boyfriend simply turned around, spun around, and shot him at point blank range, dropping him and killing him instantly. At that range, you could see that the killing instantaneously was not a surprise. In any event, Chad Reed has been all over the media. Unfortunately, he was pronounced dead on arrival, and that little boy will never see his father again. Situations like these are all too common. In this particular situation, unfortunately, under Texas law, a man has a right to defend his home and to do so with fatal force, with use of lethal weapons. And unfortunately, that's what happened here. But there are too many factors associated with it, which raise the question whether self-defense can really be raised in this particular case. The lawyers have already asserted self-defense. The event took place on November 5th. There's been very little coverage of this. I put out a post on my website, leonkoziel.com, and on that website, I made the conclusion that under Texas law, some material changes have to be made to their custody laws. And by that, I mean, if in fact a father, or for that matter, a mother, goes to pick up a child at the opposing parent's home, and you live in Texas, just the sake of an argument, which this case proved, could kill you, and could end up in your death, something totally unexpected. And home exchanges are pretty common throughout the country. And in this particular situation, the idea of a self-defense is really questionable. The father certainly didn't expect to be killed when he came to pick up his son, and unfortunately, that was the outcome. The problem here is that these exchanges at one parent or another parent's home is very common. It's not unusual to have a mom or dad pick up their children at one parent's home and then drop them off at the other parent's home. And in Texas, if this law is going to be enforced to permit a murder like this, then we have to look at other areas to correct this problem. What I have asserted is that the Texas courts should require, as a condition for filing any custody or parenting time petition, that the petition mandate boldface capital letters that warn of a possible defense of justifiable homicide should an argument ensue at the home of the particular parent where the exchange is taking place. And in that type of situation, the boldface warning would be at least sufficient to warn a principally fathers, but mothers as well, that you could be victimized to the point of being fatally shot like Chad Reed was. And so I think and this is not unusual precedent that I'm suggesting here. When in New York, for example, and many other states, support violation petitions contain boldface warnings, capital letters, right on the face of the petition, right below the caption, warning the recipient of that petition that he or she could face arrest and incarceration if that petition should be ignored, if they don't appear in court, for example. And that's simply a money debt. There's no violence involved. There's no threat of harm to anyone in that particular instance. And yet those boldface warnings are mandated under New York law in the petitions that are served routinely upon those alleged to be in violation of a support order. So that in Texas, where a situation is far more egregious, where you face the threat of death, serious harm, like Chad Reed did, I think it would be appropriate then, if you're going to enforce this kind of law, justifiable homicide in defense of a home, simply because an argument ensued, then you need to put these types of warnings on the custody petitions. And then exchanges might occur at a more neutral location. Very common locations are like police stations, malls, open areas where you have a lot of witnesses that might prevent such an occurrence. Unfortunately, this one was videotaped, and that videotape just came out. It was actually the mother, the wife, the ex-wife, that released the petition because the sister, I believe it is, of the killer was a judge and had raised his mental state in an affidavit supporting the child being under the supervision of other people, of people other than the boyfriend, that the boyfriend should have no contact with these children. After all, he just killed this boy's father. And in that affidavit, the videotape was raised. And so because it became public, the mother then decided to make it, to release it. And it just came out. And now there's a lot of attention over this. There's fundraising going on and so forth. But why was this not made public in any material way back on November 1st or November 5th when the killing occurred? And so we really have a serious problem here because this sort of fatality, it's scary, and it's getting worse in this country. In my filings, in my reports, in my reform efforts, I have strenuously urged that the violence is only going to grow. It's going to expand, and it's going to get worse because no reform is in the offing. We don't see any changes. We see these agencies. We see oversight committees. We see window dressing entities. A lot of hoopla, but no actual results. We still have that antiquated custody system. Let's face it, that's what this fight was all about. The exchange of the child, who had custody, who didn't, what time, all these things that are just lead to such needless cruelty and violence. And our government has not awakened to this yet. They're more concerned about parent-child separations on the border. And so this is a story I'm going to follow, and I'm going to try to do something, join those people who are making this incident public and looking for accountability and reform. Those are the two things that we need in situations like this. And as I stated, a change in the law so that parents in Texas, before they agree or submit innocently, unsuspectingly, to a child exchange at another parent's home, they could face they could face their death. They could face a murder, and that would be justifiable homicide because it happened to be an argument at the other parent's home. There are a lot of factors here. Yes, there was an argument between the boyfriend and the father, but the boyfriend interjected himself into an argument that was between the mom and the dad. He really had no place to interfere to the extent that this was his home or his property. Then he could have called 911. It was a simple thing. People do it all the time. You walk in the house, you don't go in the house and get a gun and shoot the man dead who's unarmed and not threatening you in any way. He was not, there's no act whatsoever to indicate that he was going in the home. And yet here he is, shot dead. The video is very graphic. It is on YouTube. There are a lot of warnings before you are allowed to see that video. And if you're willing to accept that, then you hit the proper key, and then you will be able to see that video. It's a shocking one, and it's just an example of what I have been predicting all along. The carnage is going to get worse because the corruption has gotten worse, and there has been no reform. If anybody wants to comment, you want to call in. The number here, I don't have the visible notice here, but it is area code 315-796-4000. Again, 315-796-4000. Now, Leanne's library is a live talk show designed to get discourse on issues of contemporary matters. It's not limited to just parenting rights or court corruption, parent alienation, child abuse. Those are our principal concerns, yes. And I've been at that for over 10 years. But we're also interested in all sorts of timely issues. So you're welcome to raise it, discuss anything. I practiced law in the courts for over 20 years, federal, state, appellate courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court, won a lot of big cases. I got involved in the reform movement roughly 11 years ago, was subjected to a lot of retribution. So I sacrificed a lot to obtain this kind of reform and literally save lives. Every time I want to exit this reform movement, cancel all the things I've been doing, I typically get emails, calls, texts, and so forth, urging me to continue my efforts because I am literally saving lives. And I could show you the emails and the statements of individuals who state that, and some that would be willing to even offer an affidavit proving that I have saved his or her life in the course of my activities, because this sort of thing can cause suicides, murder suicides. The killing that took place in Texas of the father, Chad Reed, we see too many instances of the carnage, and it is growing. So what I want to also indicate is that for those of you who are trying to navigate your way through this dysfunctional court system, as I call it, I did publish a book recently. It's entitled Whistleblower in Paris. It just came out this past summer. The author house is the publisher, and it contains a lot of ordeals that I obtained from people across the country, moms and dads, who suffered dearly from this antiquated custody system. And there's a lot to be learned in that book. You learn so much about the laws, the custody issues. You learn so much about constitutional rights, civil rights. I've even filed grievances with the United Nations. I appeared at a family reform conference at the United Nations. I've been all over the country, attended many events, and even sponsored a number of my own, including the Parent March on Washington in 2019, which is a 3-day event. It featured a march down Pennsylvania Avenue under police escort. One of those 3 days was devoted to lobbying Congress for reform. We had an open mic in the back of the Capitol on Friday. We had expert speakers at the Holiday Inn Congressional Ballroom. There was a lot there, a lot to be learned. You could have picked and chosen whatever event you wanted to attend. I'm hoping to do something like that again next year, now that this pandemic is hopefully behind us. But we have to be heard. We have to be seen. We can't just, pride ourselves on being keyboard warriors from the comfort of our homes and expect that the change is going to happen. It won't. So, we want to get people involved to conduct more events like that, rallies in front of courthouses, and perhaps this Chad Reed, the unfortunately late Chad Reed, rest in peace. We should do something for him as well to raise the awareness of what is occurring here as a result of the greed that is occurring in our nation's divorce and family courts and the laws which simply look the other way. We don't have proper accountability. The oversight agencies are not doing their jobs. That's why I organized this nonprofit known as the Citizen Commission Against Corruption, which sponsors this program, Leon's Library. Again, we're an open talk show. We urge people to comment, and we also republish these programs on my YouTube channel. So those of you who miss a program, you can always catch it the next day or the day after. We usually keep these shows up for at least a week. Some may be longer, depending if there was an expert speaker or guest on those who maybe enjoyed it more or got more out of it. Then we might keep those particular ones longer. In any event, so we were going to continue to monitor this Chad Reed event. What's going to happen? What kind of accountability will occur? There's been no decision to prosecute the killer yet. His lawyers have already raised justifiable homicide under Texas law, which allows you to use a deadly force to defend your home. He's going to raise that, even though he asserted himself into an argument that was between the mother and the father. Being a boyfriend and happening to live there is not a reason to kill someone. The father there was unarmed. He wasn't engaged with the boyfriend. He didn't try to enter the home. There was no indication he was going to harm anyone. There was nothing in the argument other than, where is his son? Why is that boy not present? And that sort of exchange. And it just so happened that fortunately, that the father's girlfriend, seated in the car from a distance, videotaped the entire shooting, the entire matter. There was another video from inside the home, I understand. And when you think about it, the two parties videotaping everything, that's a pretty sad commentary, really sad, that we have to do this sort of thing just to protect one from being arrested or killed, murdered, or the loss of a child. The parent alienation that typically results from this sort of prolonged problem between parents that are otherwise good parents. There was nothing to indicate that either mom or dad in this situation were unfit. I don't see anything in the record that I've seen so far that either of them was subjected to a child protection order, stay away order, or anything like that. So there was no reason for this dad to be killed in this manner, and then to be videotaped and then be shown all across the country. We have to wake up to this. We have to organize and do much more than keyboarding and simply going on with our routines. That won't change anything. All right. So not having had any callers today, I will then end the program and urge you all to stay involved, get more subscribers to our channel, and make your donations if you can, and then we might be able to get the reform that we need. So at this point, I'll end it, and I want to thank you for joining our program, and we'll be here again tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Again, that's Leon's Library Talk program. Spread the word, give us your input, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks.